Hi everyone, I'm Ruchika Bindra, host and journalist. Growing up, I always searched for faces like mine for inspiration. While there were some phenomenal Desi women doing some amazing things, their stories weren't at the forefront. I needed to see more of us being celebrated and represented in all facets of life. From a global influencer to a fashion stylist, I bring you some of the most inspiring Desi women nationally and internationally. Welcome to Tell Me More with Ru. Hey guys, it's the last episode of Tell Me More with Ru. That's crazy. I literally remember sitting in pajamas a few weeks ago bugging my husband about what something creative I can do. I'm so glad I was able to share the stories of phenomenal women in our community. We have so many inspiring women that are doing different and amazing things. Thank you to all the women that came on and shared their stories and their career journeys. And most importantly, thank you to all of you guys who supported me and checked it out. Hope to see you next season with something more creative and different. My guest today is an award-winning entrepreneur and media personality. She is the founder and CEO of Anokhi Life, Open Chest, and most recently, her latest venture, the Open Chest Confidence Academy. Here to talk about her phenomenal journey and the niche that she's carved for herself in the South Asian community and beyond. Let's welcome an extremely dear mentor to me, Raj Girn. Hi, Raj. Welcome to Tell Me More with Ru, the season finale. How are you?
Sweetheart, I couldn't be better. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. And also, I'm just so happy and excited for just all the tremendous stories that you've been bringing this first season. It's incredible.
Thank you. I couldn't think of anybody else to kind of close the season, a mentor and just Raj, I always feel like asking you, how do you do it? In my intro, I was saying, you're an award-winning entrepreneur. You run a successful media company. You're a media personality in yourself. Like, do you sleep? Just tell me the truth.
I'm just a really well-organized person. I'm that annoying friend that you have that has everything organized, even on a vacation when you're supposed to be chilling out. I've got like morning to night planned.
We're going to go to the beach. After the beach, we're going to do this. Now it's relaxing time. I love it.
That's me.
I have something in common with a lot of successful people I've been reading about. Jeff Bezos wakes up, starts his day, and he says, I've got everything structured. That's the key to success. So let's chat about your journey. You are one inspiring Desi babe. This season, we've been talking to, Raj, people that are fashion influencers in business. There are women that are doing different fields. They're trying to be actors, some of them are in corporate. But your story sticks out with me. I mean, of course, I know you personally, but just because of the way you built a space in our Desi community with, Anokhi Life, which used to be Anokhi Media. So tell me about your journey. You came to Canada from London. What made you want to move here? How did the path of going into being in media come for you?
That's such a loaded question. So, the synopsis version of that is basically I came, from the UK because I had an arranged marriage. That's actually what brought me into the, Ontario area. I was married for, I believe, 8 years. I have a son from the marriage. And, what happened is that I got married in my very early 20s. And prior to that experience, I didn't really have much exposure to the outside world, lived with my parents and, as an Indian, girl, the experiences for me weren't that varied. So, when the arranged marriage came, that brought me into Canada, I kind of came to Canada with quite a chip on my shoulder because, I had that arranged marriage that people who are non-Desi hear about, that marriage where you literally don't know the person and you moved, to another part of the world, a part of the world that you don't know anyone in. And so all of those layers were a part of, my journey to Canada. And so, 8 years later, I'm on the other end of my 20s. So, that journey for me, that 10-year journey almost for me, really changed the kind of, woman that I became at the end of the 20s to who I was when I was at the beginning of my 20s, because now I'm outside of my parents' home. I'm being exposed to the outside world. I don't have anyone over my head that's kind of telling me what I should say, what I should do, how I should be, how I should feel, what my identity was. I was kind of, in this unknown land, getting to know, my husband, getting to know his family, getting to know kind of the ecosystem that existed in Canada, which was very different than the Desi ecosystem that existed in, the UK, which was far more kind of, flamboyant, a lot more integrated into, mainstream society than it was here in Canada at that time, which was kind of like your early 90s.
Yep.
If you remember back to then, it was a very different, Canada to the Canada that we live in today.
Right.
So, when I came to the end of my 20s, I'd had lots of experiences that I'd never had prior to the marriage, one of which was becoming obviously a mother. And what I found was that it was that kind of moment that I became a mother that really changed my perspective on who I was and who I wanted to be. And it was predicated on the fact that here I was now finally where my life was about someone beyond me. And so now I started questioning who is the woman that's bringing up this child? I mean, how will I bring him up? What will I teach him? What will I tell him? I don't even know who I am as an identity myself, because I'd had so much confusion, coming from a very monochromatic society in the UK, where either you were white or you were black. There was no in between. And now here I was in Canada, where now I needed to adopt not just the Canadian perspective on culture, but also the Canadian Desi perspective on culture. And now you add to it that I became a wife and a mother, and the expectations that comes with that as an Indian woman. So, and then there was the juxtaposition of the freedom that came with not having, parents that were living in the same house as you. It was just kind of, so I came into my own. The freedom taught me a lot of things about the kind of woman that I wanted to be and the kind of mother I wanted to be for my son, which really, unfortunately, came to a point where the marriage came to an end. But, it wasn't a Bollywood drama. Nobody cheated on anyone. No one was abusive with anyone. There was no kind of, story there. I outgrew the girl and I grew into being the woman. So I feel that's kind of what happened with my journey. Yeah. And how did that lead me to media? Is interesting because I met a gentleman called Jake Deere, who was running one of the stations of Rogers Communications at that time. And he asked me to come and, train with him. And he also asked me to do kind of a lot of the Indian shows that he is very well known for having done over the last 20 odd years. And I kind of got the media bug. But the thing is that what happened with that, Ruchika, was they kept throwing me in the kind of, South Asian story. So I'd go and get that story, but then they would change or translate it into a version that was more palatable or, digestible by people who weren't South Asian. And that irked me. That bothered me, because I'd spent all my life trying to figure out who I was. And here I am now doing this for a living, but, creating a version of us that I didn't feel really existed. So through that frustration and my lack of knowledge of what I was getting into, I decided to start Anokhi. At that time, it was Anokhi Vibe, which then transmuted over into Anokhi Magazine. That then kind of became a bigger entity when we added events and multiple platforms. It became Anokhi Media. And today we are sitting here as a community-centric mission as Anokhi Life.
And I love it because I'm sure a lot of our viewers know I'm still a part of, the Anokhi family. I have my show,
yes,
Anokhi Uncensored. And I remember before the pandemic, life would have been so different. We would have been out at TIFF, we would have been having events. And I love, Raj, though, that you've taken the brand. And a lot of people struggle from a business viewpoint on how to revamp their brand. Your brand will go in that high, and then how do you kind of keep it from not just going down, right? Either you become stagnant or you keep evolving. And I think you did something very different that the community still doesn't have. Anokhi now, when you go on Anokhi Life, it's a community feeling. We have different people writing, we have different editors, different authors. There's people and, readers from all across the world that are connecting. And to me, I think that's something different. I haven't seen that yet happen.
It's interesting you say that, Ruchika, because, a lot of people ask me, like, how has the, brand kept going? And it's been because, the single mandate that we've always been, clear about and has never changed since I started the company back in 2002 was that, the simple premise of we have to always be connected with our community. We have to always listen to what they want and deliver them what they need, right? So in the last 18 years that the brand has been around, we just hit our 18th year here in November. And when I look over the 18 years, and it's a question that a lot of people ask me, is that how have you kept the brand going? It's because from the beginning we've always listened to our community. Our community has seen changes in terms of their representation, the power of our community, the amount of different industries, the diverse industries that they are now represented in. There's been a lot of change in terms of the IQ associated with what it means to be a diverse community here in Canada and also in the world now. The discussions are there. And because we've stayed connected to that, it's never been a case of whether we've been relevant, because we've made sure that we've stayed connected to the grassroots of who we are as an identity, collectively speaking.
You know what, Raj? I love it. I love that you've explained your mandate. And it's so true. You guys have always stayed real to what the community needs. And the community has changed, especially in the last year, which we'll get into. But I want to talk a little bit about Anokhi, the brand. So you founded it. Anokhi means to be different, to be unique. And I love that idea because I think every single person is different and every single person brings something unique to this earth. When you started it, what was the pinch me moment for you? At one point, it could have been somebody you interviewed, it could have been a big sponsorship deal. Like, what moment did you sit in your room and say, shit, like, I think I did it? I'm curious.
It's interesting because, I'm, innately a creative being. Yeah. So as is indicative of any creative being, when you hit a certain milestone, you've already got another 4 milestones lined up. It's never quite perfect. It's like your art is never quite perfect. So I guess if I was to say what the first moment was, I would say is when we got paid for ads, to be very honest. Until then it's like it's a hobby, right? Like it's not until you start getting companies and multinational companies, like the big names, starting to participate, do you really see that you're offering something of value outside of what's important to you as an individual. I think that was kind of the key moment for us that kind of changed the trajectory from hobby to maybe this can be a thing.
Definitely, that's cool. I can see that experience. So people probably think we're divas, Raj, because now you're in a totally different location, but that's just, we've been having some tech issues and we're loving the conversation. So thank you. I know you have a busy day, but you're able to get your team to move things around and make it happen. So thank you, Raj.
Oh, sweetheart, you're most welcome. I'm just so happy that we're having a conversation that's so important to be had about our community and about women and about what's happening right now in society.
And speaking about women, Raj, I want to ask you a question that I've actually been wanting to ask you for a long time. So I'm glad I can take them all out at the show. When you started the brand, did you experience any rejections because you were a woman? Like maybe, it was your first awards show, you're reaching out to big prolific figures and they're not kind of connecting back, but would it be because your brand was at its baby phase, or would it be because you were a woman and you felt a challenge? Because a lot of young girls say, oh, we're scared to start businesses. We feel we're going to be rejected because we're women.
I think it was multi-layered. It's more layered when you are a woman of color.
Right.
So and especially then you add the other layer of, so there's 2 layers there. There's the layer of being a woman. There's the layer of being an ethnic woman. Then there's the layer of, creating a brand that didn't really have any other brands out there to compare it to, because, we were, creating a kind of infrastructure where we could identify who we were
in our duality as an identity, like, the Indianness of us or the South Asianness of us, as well as how we live within the culture that we live in North America. So, that kind of media platform didn't exist back in, the early 2000s when I started the company. So when you add all those layers on, it really amplifies. Each layer amplifies the next layer, which then amplifies the next layer. So I feel that, we had kind of a triple-edged sword, so to speak, in that regard. And it was interesting because it wasn't just people that weren't from our community that found it hard to understand, what was this brand? That's not the version of South Asians that I understand to exist here in Canada or in North America. Like, what are they talking about? Who are these artists? Like, Indians are supposed to be, doctors and lawyers and accountants and shopkeepers and, cab drivers, etc. Like, who are these creatives?
Yeah. Well said.
So, that there wasn't an existence to that identity. It wasn't being acknowledged. So therefore, there was no importance or validity to it at that time. And then here you are, a woman of color, and on top of that, she's also a divorced woman with a child. So people from the community found it hard to kind of get around the idea of the woman that was heading up this new concept of, the identity that we were as South Asians. Like, so it was quite deeply rooted in the fact that they were very used to living in the black and white world where, brown people didn't really exist. And they didn't know that the existence was something that they needed in order to make life better for their children. Like, they didn't have that foresight. They just fit themselves in. And I wasn't comfortable with that. I felt that because I had been subjected to the duality of my culture, where on one side I was exposed to kind of the romanticized version of who you could be as a woman if you weren't brown, right? But I had to live within the confines of being brown. So that confusion, that kind of, confused message was something I didn't want my son or, anyone else in future generations to have to grapple with, because life's hard enough. The challenges of life and are hard enough without adding layers that I feel don't really benefit your growth as a human being or even as a collective community.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You struggled with, this, like you said, trying to start something new that, you're right, we've never seen before. And let's fast forward to maybe your first award show. When you were reaching out, were people like, because there wasn't social media at that time, right? It wasn't, oh, let's go check this brand. Let's go see how many followers they have. And life is all about that now, it seems. At that time, it was, you're sending your press kit. This is Anokhi. This is what we do. Were people confused, or were artists like, yes, we want to come? Like, I'm curious to know where media was at that point.
So it's interesting because our first award show was in 2007.
Yeah.
We were very clear about who we wanted to award. So this wasn't an award show for, being South Asian, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was an award show for recognizing and providing a platform for and visibility for creators.
Yeah.
So if you were in the entertainment business, in the media business, in the art space, fashion world, if any of the above was, your wheelhouse of where you were trying to make a mark, we used our platform to create the awards show because nobody else was awarding the creators.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really, it wasn't a business decision per se. It was a decision based out of the fact that we needed to create visibility and credibility and authority around the multifaceted, multidisciplinary art forms that have existed for generations and for hundreds and thousands of years within our culture back home. And why was it not being acknowledged? And, why was it not important, for the culture that we existed in North America, even amongst our own community? Like, our parents would push us into, jobs that weren't creative based because they felt that that was a hobby,
Yeah, that was a hobby. It wasn't going to be your life career. It wasn't going to be what's going to get you the good marriage, the good family, the stable longevity that we talk about. It's so true. It's
And who wants to marry a woman that is an artist or dances for a living? You know what I mean? Like, who wants to marry that woman? Very, very different from the world we live in today. And I feel that it's a testament to the fact that, everyone has a platform today. Before they didn't. We were fed identity. Now we tell people what identity is as individuals. That's the fundamental difference with, the platforms that we have today that we didn't have yesterday.
Yep. And do you feel like now, because your brand is open, it's almost a community style where everybody's involved and they're engaging and they're giving back, and I love that. Do you feel like it's changed a little bit how people are more open with the Anokhi brand? Because before it was this prestige, like you were waiting to know who was going to get the award, who was being awarded. Everybody wanted to buy tickets, right? And now it's almost changed. Do you think the next time in life post the pandemic, I pray we're all expecting another party from Anokhi, because it's the party that everybody goes to. So I'm just saying, you're not getting out of the party, I'm being honest.
It's interesting you say that, because I love hearing how we've been perceived over the years, and what you're saying here about being considered as the glamour brand, the kind of the brand that everybody wants to be a part of because of all of that. And now here we are, more grassroots and more, community centric. I feel that really was a testament of the change of times, to be honest. It wasn't really predicated on the fact that we made a business decision. Again, that it wasn't because of that. In those days, in the 10 years that we had award shows, we had a mandate that we wanted to show the importance of the creators in our community, as diverse as those industries were, and we wanted to do it on an Oscar level. We wanted, because how else would brands, how else would the big name creators, and how else would the community and media, even, because you need the coverage as well, how would all of these entities take it seriously if it was something that wasn't on kind of a world-class level? So that was really the reason why we did it on the level that we did. And this year it just seems to feel like we are more kind of community-based, but by default of the fact that we're all having to communicate on a virtual level. The only form of communication we have is virtual, so our entire focus goes into that virtual footprint, because we don't have the other elements that we normally have to be able to kind of show a more cohesive ecosystem that exists in our culture. So don't worry, once that pandemic's over, girlfriend, we are gagging for human connection. We're gagging to be able to hug and touch and feel and laugh and have incredible memories with our community. We can't wait for that, and we hope that's going to happen in 2021. And
it's such a fun time. I mean, for viewers internationally, if you look at our clips on Anokhi Pulse, usually we put them up. It's just such a fun event. Everyone's there, and it's so nice, Raj, to just see that room full of Desis and South Asians that are all proud of each other. That atmosphere in that room is nothing but positive, which you don't get to see very often.
And it's interesting you say that, because I'm kind of reminiscing back on some of these award shows and things. And if you think about it, people, like different types of celebrities, different thought leaders, different business leaders, different professionals came from across the world.
Yeah, they flew in
to celebrate the collective success story that is the South Asian community. I mean, think about that for a second. That is huge.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I've been lucky, because with Anokhi, I've got to do a lot of amazing interviews on the red carpet. I've got to interview tons of people. I've been nervous, but you've always pushed me to say, you're going to do it. And you just got to sit through. So on that mentor point, I have to thank you a lot for the encouragement in journalism. And even Anokhi Uncensored, I'm sure our listeners, when they watch it, now they can watch it, but when it started, it was audio. From starting that show till now, it has grown so much, and your guidance in that has been amazing. Which leads me to the reason I'm kind of dropping these seeds is because I think people have heard rumors that you are launching an academy, and I want to talk to you about that. But really quickly before that, I want to close a little bit the Anokhi topic and have some fun with you. Okay. You can tell me if you say it, it's fine, but I do want to ask. Okay. Your favorite person you've interviewed and why? But like that Raj Girn has done on Open Chest.
I think that one of my favorites probably was Priyanka Chopra.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is she's perceived as this, this image of kind of, glamour and, like all the things you'd expect of, an entertainment personality, but she's incredibly intelligent.
Okay.
She's very able to cleverly task her answers no matter what type of question you ask her. And it takes a lot of intelligence to kind of be able to do that on the spur of the moment. And the other reason why that one was important outside of that was it was one of the few interviews that I did live on stage during my award show. It was the 10th anniversary award show. So, there were so many different dynamics about that experience, which I believe it's probably one of the few that I've actually had in that such a mass, audience live experience. So I would say that one for the fact that it was different from pretty much all of the others I've ever done.
Okay, very cool. And without naming names, the most annoying pet peeve when you interview celebrities.
So celebrities that don't listen to the question.
Tell me about growing up. So this is what I have to say about my life right now. And you're like, no, you just missed it. Okay. If
Yeah.
one person living or dead that you could interview, who would it be and why?
Wow. I would want to interview Buddha.
Why did I know you would say something like that?
Yeah.
I didn't see you doing that.
I would want to interview Buddha, and I would want to interview Rani Jhansi
Oh, yes.
because of what she went through and what she was subjected to and why she still continued the fight to the end. So many dynamics of her story that really resonate with me as a woman.
Yeah.
As a woman that's so much of my life been told who I had to be, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Had things taken away from me because it wasn't something that was meant for me, and that I had to fight for my right to be heard. So that resonates with me. I'd also like to interview Princess Diana because she completely changed the entire idea behind what it meant to be royal.
Yep.
And just think about the machine, the royal machine that was against her, and how she still stood up for staying true to the identity of the person she needed to be. I mean, that to me, wow.
I'm a Diana fan. I've said that in many interviews. If I could interview someone, it would be her for the exact same reason. What a lady. That's what I'm gonna say, right?
Yeah.
And Raj, if there's two things you want to still accomplish for Anokhi, what would it be? Like the brand's done phenomenal things, but is there any like one or two things that you're like, you know what, I still want to kind of hit that. That's a milestone that I want to do for Anokhi.
I would love to have a show on streaming networks, like on Netflix or Amazon or Apple. Like I think that, a lot of people feel that, these kinds of shows are kind of archaic, but I really don't think so. I think that for people to tune in and listen to different types of perspectives and opinions from a specific community, I would love to be able to have that opportunity. Like not something local. I mean, I've been offered that many times and I've always said no because, the mandate of our brand isn't local. It is, collective and international. And I don't ever want to be put into a geographical box because it's not what the brand represents.
Yeah.
It represents a type of person and not, a locale per se. So I feel that, a streaming platform would be a great place to be able to have really honest, important, provocative discussions and bring on guests and have conversations with them about things that really matter to our community. as opposed to just, the tidbit, gossipy stuff. Like I've never been into that. Our brand has never been into that. If it's not meaningful, if it can't help maybe change someone's perspective or help elevate someone, it's not something that I want to talk about, because there's enough platforms out there that do that.
Yeah.
And I'm not motivated by how many numbers of people come to us. I'm motivated about the quality of people that come to us. So that's kind of that's the wheelhouse I live in.
Well, I hope that we get to see it one day on Netflix, Amazon. I can already envision it. I can see your beautiful red hair on that screen. So
you'll be right there with me, darling. So
now, Raj, we are going to move to a very exciting new part of your life. You are such an inspiring woman, and now you are opening it up. All your years of industry connections, the knowledge you bring, not just in media, but as a businesswoman, right? Like, this is not just for people that are trying to grow in media. It's for corporations, it's for individuals. Tell me a little bit about Open Chest, the Academy. I saw it, people are already talking about it online. I want to know from you why you started it.
What happened was in 2017, I started to get individuals, entrepreneurs, companies coming to me because they wanted to kind of garner a better understanding of how to tap into the, South Asian market. And that then grew into tapping into women. That then grew into just tapping into, concepts around how to be more engaging as a brand. And because my wheelhouse for the last 20 years has been in media, communications, events, branding, marketing, and because I've never, especially in the beginning, it was a huge struggle. So I have literally been through every type of challenge that, people can face and come out the other end. And I feel that that kind of, experience is very rare for people to have. So this is not like someone went to school, they got their degree, maybe they went all the way up to PhD and they learned about mass communications or marketing, right? And you go to that person to garner knowledge. This is about tactical, practical skills, knowledge, and the mindset around how to use them and when to use them, right? That's what I bring to the table with the Open Chest Confidence Academy. And I have so many resources. I have access to incredible thought leaders, and I'm just at a point in my life right now where I can't serve all the people that are coming to me if I don't figure out a way in which I can get to the maximum amount of people that need help with telling their story, with being engaging, with being authentic and credible. People have, every single person has a story that's important, but not everyone knows how to translate that over to the right audience that they're trying to tap into. So and the other thing is, Ruchika, that I felt that it needed to be an academy and not just a service, is that people learn in different ways. Some people want to be handheld and they want to go through a daily system. Other people want to be able to have one-on-one time with the expert. It's give me what I need. I don't want to share my space. Other people work well in a peer group setting. They like to learn because they're there with other people, especially if they're more on the shy side. And then they start seeing that there's other people in the group that are like them. It helps them kind of bring themselves out more, and then there's people that literally they don't have the patience. They want the quick hits. So and then there's people that really are academics, they want the full-on program that has all the different elements and the learning and the resources and what else can you give me that I can consume. In order to make all of these available, I feel that it needs to be in an e-learning environment, right, where people can easily access these things from anywhere in the world at any time they want, and they can choose the type of learning they want, what they want to learn, and to do it on their own terms.
Yeah.
So this is why the academy was important. And really it's, my entire kind of mission with this is I want to be able to get to as many people as possible who don't get access to the resources and the thought leaders because perhaps they don't live in places where they have that access. So it could be the most rural places, but they have these great ideas, right? And they need the opportunity to be able to know how to do what it is that they're envisaging to do. Just think that a very small percentage of people in this world actually get access to resources and knowledge and skill and expertise. Can you imagine if we were able to, and the ones that do have to pay an arm and a leg to the university system, right, which they spend the next 2 decades paying off, and by the time they graduate, it's already information that is out of date.
Yeah.
I feel that there is a huge gap in the education system, right, where as soon as you educate yourself and you come out with a degree, it's only as good as your first job. After that, everything is predicated on your experience. So I feel that people need to be on a professional and a personal development journey throughout their whole life. And that's kind of why I felt this was important. And my area is communications, branding, media marketing, mindset. And I hope that being able to reach those people that truly need the assistance and the resources and the access is something I'm able to accomplish. It's the reason why I decided to make it available and accessible online. I mean, it's really that it's, the products will be drip launched throughout 2021, throughout 2022. That's my plan. I'm not in a hurry to scale and become this big kind of, diva known personality. I've already been known for 2 decades. It's
great work.
I'm not motivated by that kind of success. I'm motivated by service. I feel the focus on service will give me all of the above. If I'm successful in servicing people with my wheelhouse of expertise and my resources that people can tap into, by default, success and fame and, money and all of the above will come with it. But I'm not motivated by those things. I'm motivated by service.
So Raj, is the program going to be almost like a mentor option for people one-on-one, where they get to, let's say they want to build their brand from scratch, work with you, they don't know their vision, they don't know exactly, sometimes you think you know the vision you're looking for, but it's very different from what you actually needed on pen and paper to execute. And are you going to be, connecting people? Is there a networking aspect of it? What can people expect if they were to sign up for a one-on-one, let's say?
Okay, so there's 2 services that we're launching. One is the one-on-one service, which is already launched. It's called Consult with Raj Girn. And this is where you actually get, to consult with me. And what I have this kind of methodology that I've created over my, many years of experience working with different types of, people and companies. I've developed this kind of methodology that incorporates coaching, consulting, and mentoring methodology. And because I feel that, when I go through a session with someone, and this is obviously through experience, at some points of that session, a person needs coaching.
Yeah.
And coaching is when you don't give advice. It's when you guide them to their own solutions, right? So there's a very specific way that you do that. There's an art to how you do that. And, I'm certified as a business and life coach with 2 organizations. So, that's something that I've really kind of honed in on, because I felt that I wanted to go deeper than doing it from an experience perspective. I wanted to kind of understand the methodology of how to coach someone without giving advice. Just think about that for a moment. For someone like me, that's hard to do. So that's one thing. And then the other part of it is, somewhere along that journey of being in that session with someone, I may need to actually give them advice. I may need to actually say, hang on a minute. This is when the consulting hat goes on. And I'm very transparent when that happens. I'll say, okay, so now my consulting hat is coming on, my coaching hat is off. Now this is where we need to head with this, because this is where the conversation is naturally taking us, if I have your permission to do so, right? And then there's points when a person needs mentoring, right? Where, they're garnering from my experiences in a specific area. So this is kind of where the mentor hat goes on. So, and I know that this isn't kind of the way that most people do one-on-one sessions, but it's the way that I found has been the most effective in terms of, people taking time out with me, because, it's their time and it's their money. And I want to make sure that as we go from beginning to end of the session, that they're actually getting what they're looking for. And sometimes what they come for, like you said, isn't actually what they need
Yeah.
by the time they get to the end of the session. So I need to be able to, incorporate coaching, consulting, and mentorship to ensure that I'm giving them the maximum service. So that one we've already launched. It's already available. But then for people who, don't, don't really have the wherewithal, or even, need that kind of one-on-one. It's not really the way they work best, but they want more of a peer setting. I have a membership, to a monthly, community, which is going to be going live in, February of next year. So
Great.
we'll be talking about that, after the holidays in January, so you'll know what all that's about. And that's, called, Monthly Mentor Mastery. So here, they, for a nominal fee per month, you get, a link to join a virtual environment from wherever you are in the world. And we tackle, different themed, scenarios. So, 1 month could be branding, right? And storytelling. Another month could be sales and marketing. Another month could be, mindset and, getting over limiting beliefs and stuff like that. And the entire calendar for the year will be available for people to see. So they'll know actually what is happening when, including what the days are. And they'll also get, membership into a, private members only Facebook group as well, where in between our sessions, there'll be other things going on there. And it'll also allow each of the members to actually communicate and network with each other, which I feel is really important. And there'll be various things that are going to come about from that community. But, the goal is going to be for, me to kind of start off the session where I'll talk about, whatever that theme is. I'll bring in an expert that does nothing but that theme, right? There'll be a Q&A component. There will be a meditative, mindset component to it as well. And I will be setting homework. I mean, I will expect people to be responsible for their, their personal and or professional journey, because that 1 hour with me and experts is not enough. You have to do the work. And that's going to be why the Facebook group is going to be so important. I'll be popping in there as well, giving people nuggets of wisdom that they won't be able to get outside of this, community that we're creating, and that I want as many people as possible to join and come into from around the world.
Well, Raj, congratulations. I think the community, as South Asians, as someone in the community, we're so lucky because we're going to get this great opportunity. People can connect with you. They can get that mentorship in so many different ways. And, as someone who's part of the Anokhi family, I'm so excited to see this journey for you. And I've been lucky. I've had, mentor sessions with you where, poor thing, she's had to also see me break down and cry. And I'm like, oh God, I did it again. I was telling my husband, I'm like, and I broke down again. In front of her, because you have that nurturing space where you connect with people. So I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much for sharing some of your really heartfelt details about your life, your journey, this beautiful brand, and you really are a Desi inspiring babe.
Oh, babe, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to sit and chat here with you and your community. I hope that they garner some value. And, the final thing that I'd like to leave your audience with is, I feel that a lot of people are scared to ask for help. And I feel that it's, because they feel that being vulnerable isn't, accepted in our culture and our community. It's almost like, you're not allowed to break down. I feel that's the reason why there's so many mental health and trauma and pain-based issues that we still have in our community, layers of it. So, if there's anything at all that I'd like people to get away, with this session is, my entire life has, up until recently, has been a struggle towards figuring out what my identity needs to be. Yeah. And, I never had the opportunity to be able to talk about it or to have some sort of community or anyone to lean on, which is the reason why my entire life's journey has been to create that for people. First, in the form of Anokhi, because, we just, creators just weren't being recognized. And now in the form of, education and, community and, the ability to feel like you're a part of something as you are on your own personal and professional journey. So, I'm not saying, that what I do is what you need to do, but what you do need to do is you need to think about how important you are to yourself and what is it that you feel that you need to do, right, to garner the assistance that you need to be able to help you become the best that you can be. Because at the end of the day, when you die, and you go to heaven, because that's what I believe in, right? God is not going to be interested in what he did to you or she did to you or what they said to you. All he's going to be interested in is what did you do when you came across these things. So life is about you first before it can be about anyone else. So what are you going to do to show up for your life?
So beautifully said, Raj. My God, what a beautiful way to end the season. And thank you so much for coming on. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, sweetheart.